Hello students, welcome to today's chemistry class. So we are in the chapter S block elements wherein we are talking about the characteristics formed of the compounds by the alkali metals. Now the alkali metals are the first group elements which are said to be highly reactive because of one electron which is present in the outermost shell. So they can easily lose electrons, that's how they become electropositive in nature, where you don't consider francium because it is highly radioactive in nature. So until cesium you have studied their properties and also their compounds formed by different reactions. Now in today's class let us discuss the general characteristic of the compounds formed by the alkali metals. Now as you all know, they form oxides, they form hydroxides, they form halides, they form hydrides. All these you have studied one by one and also their reactions. Now we will study how do they look like, what are their properties, what are their characteristics, in a simple, very simple manner. Okay. So starting with the general characteristics, let's talk about oxides and hydroxides first. So talking about oxides and hydroxides. Now as you know that formation of oxides happens whenever they react with oxygen. Who reacts with oxygen? Alkali metals. Now as I said that depending on the ability of the oxidation state on each metal, they would form their own respective oxides. Now for example, let us talk about lithium. As I said that lithium forms monoxide or its own oxide by combining with oxygen or reacting with oxygen, they form its own oxide. So when this forms lithium oxide, it also forms some amount of peroxide too. So there is some formation of peroxide too, but the larger amount would be of its own oxide, but some amount of peroxide will also be formed in it. And also talking about sodium, it generally forms its own peroxide, that is Na2O2, but it also forms some amount of superoxides. And as you all know that higher heavy metals like potassium, rubidium, cesium, they form their own superoxide. So potassium forms its own oxide, that is superoxide. So in this way, they have a general formation of its own oxide, that is respective oxides, plus some other amount of oxides too. Okay. Now we will talk about each of them. Okay. So as you all know that superoxides are really stable in nature. Okay. Why? Because there is a metal ion, a cation, which is forming a bond with an oxide. Superoxide is O2 minus. So suppose K and oxygen, these two are forming a bond with each other. Okay. They are said to be really stable in nature. Why? Because the superoxides, the oxygen ion, okay, it will have a larger size. Anion is said to be having a larger size when you compare it to cation. Now, because of the larger size of anion, it can tend to distort the electron charge cloud, right? Who will distort the electron charge cloud? The cation, as it has a smaller size, it can distort the anion charge cloud. That means it can distort, the potassium ion can distort the oxygen electron cloud, oxide electron cloud. So because of this, they themselves stabilize there, and that's how they are said to be more stable in nature. Okay, so this is done by the polarization or the lattice energy effects. So because of this, superoxides are really said to be stable because of the cation, smaller size of the cation, which is distorting the electron charge cloud of the larger anion of the oxide. Okay, so oxide ion is said to be larger, and because of distortion there is high stability which is being observed. Also talking about these production of oxides or preparation of oxides in the laboratory under appropriate conditions, that is you must be having some of the agents which can help you to prepare all of these oxides. Like superoxides, you can also prepare them under appropriate conditions in the laboratory. Okay. Now, also talking about the color of these oxides. Now the monoxide, that is the usual oxides, as well as the peroxides. Okay, the oxides as well as peroxides, these both will be usually colorless when they are pure. They are colorless when they are pure in nature. Okay, but whereas superoxides, they will have a slightly yellowish orange color. Okay, so superoxides will have yellowish or orangish color. Okay, this is to be noted. So this can be asked in the exams. What would be the color of oxides as well as superoxides? So oxides as well as peroxides will be usually colorless, whereas superoxides, which are stable in nature, will have yellowish or an orangish color, slightly orangish color. Now, talking about hydroxides. Now this was all about oxides. As I said that lithium would form its own oxide plus some peroxide, sodium its peroxide and superoxides, and superoxides are highly stable because of the distortion of the cation to the larger size of the anion. They become highly stable in nature, and also talking about the color of these oxides. Now this much is to be remembered among oxides. Now talking about hydroxides. How are hydroxides formed usually? They form hydroxides. So these oxides dissolve in water or they react with water, forming hydroxides, which are the soluble bases, right? That's why you call them as alkali metals, because they are soluble in water. So these oxides, suppose M2O, okay, when they react with water, what would be the formation here? Obviously they form metal hydroxide. M is what? Any of the metal, maybe lithium or sodium or anything. So lithium forms usually this type of oxides, that is Li2O. So when they react with water, when they are dissolved in water, they form metal hydroxide, which is written as M plus and OH minus. So this is how they form hydroxide. So these both combine and form your hydroxides, which are nothing but soluble bases. In the same way, if you talk about peroxides, N2O2, H2O2, N2O2, right, peroxide. So when they react with water, they also form hydroxides itself, but some amount of peroxide release is being taking place. So peroxide is also a byproduct which is obtained when metal peroxides react with water. So they also form hydroxides. In the same way, if you take the example of superoxides, they also form the hydroxides, which are highly soluble in nature, OH minus and H2O2 with some oxygen liberation. So whenever these oxides, when they are treated with water, they form metal hydroxides. So these are usually soluble bases, we say. But if it is crystallized, okay, if process of crystallization is done, then you obtain a white crystalline solid of these hydroxides. So usually hydroxides are white crystalline solids. But if you are treating them with water, initially they are soluble, and that's how you call them as hydroxides. Metal oxides react with water, forming metal hydroxides. Okay, so this is the general idea about oxides as well as hydroxides. Talking about the uses of them. Now, when you talk about the peroxide, sodium peroxide is said to be the best oxidizing agent in the inorganic chemistry. So, oxidizing agents, as you all know, what they do? They provide oxygen for a reaction. So, which is the compound? That is sodium peroxide is said to be a good oxidizing agent. And as you all know, these hydroxides are really, they are said to be undergoing intense hydration, and they are said to be the soluble bases. Okay. So let's talk about the second type of compound, that is halides. Now as you all know, halides, that is alkali metal halides, are formed by the combination of an alkali metal as well as a halogen. Which are the halogens? That is starting from fluorine, chlorine, bromine and iodine. So for example, let me take the example of lithium fluoride. It is a halide, lithium halide. Okay, lithium fluoride, lithium chloride, all of these are halides, examples for halides. Now, these halides have high melting points. Why? Because the bond which is formed between a halide as well as an alkali metal, okay, This is said to be an ionic bond because alkali metals are electropositive, halides are electronegative, highly electronegative in nature, right? So the bond formed between them would be an ionic bond. Now ionic bond is said to be a stronger bond, so you require much energy in order to break the bond. So what happens? You require more energy, and obviously your melting points also will be high. Okay, so the melting point of these halides are very high, and also they are crystalline solids, colorless crystalline solids. Okay, so this is one of the basic characteristic of these halides, alkali metal halides. And also, if you talk about the preparation method of these halides, okay, halides can be prepared by the oxides, by use of oxides, or you can take hydroxides, okay, and also if you have carbonates, metal carbonates, so all these are metal oxides, metal hydroxides or metal carbonates. If you have these compounds, what you can do is you can treat them with hydrohalic acid. Okay, hydrohalic acid. Hydrohalic acid is written as HX. X can be fluorine, chlorine, bromine or iodine. So these are the halogens which can be considered to be hydrohalic acid. So HX is written, X means that these are the halogens. So when you treat them, or that is these compounds with hydrohalic acids, whatever the product which is obtained would be your alkali metal halide. So for example, if you have metal carbonates, okay, sodium carbonate, if you treat with HCl, hydrohalic acid, okay, what do you get? You get NaCl, which is nothing but your halide, right? So they usually form salts. Okay, simply they are called the salts. So these are the halides which are formed. Okay, so this is one of the preparation method by which you can obtain the halides, alkali metal halides. That is by having oxides, hydroxides or carbonates which is treated with hydrohalic acid. Very simple to be understood. Now, if you talk about another important characteristic, that is the enthalpy of formation. Now these alkali metal halides are said to be having highly negative enthalpy of formation. What do you mean by highly negative enthalpy? Which means that the energy released is said to be more. They have high negative values of enthalpy of formation. What is formation? If suppose if you take an example of NaCl, here there is a cation and an anion. So when they form their own ionic crystal, whatever energy is released is your energy of formation or enthalpy of formation. So these alkali metal halides will have high negative values of enthalpy of formation. Negative values of enthalpy of formation, that is your delta F. Okay, negative values. Now, particularly how does this trend go? Okay, whether with respect to fluorides or bromides, how does this go? Let me explain it to you. Now, as I said, all of these alkali metal halides will have high negative values when you compare it to whole periodic table. Now, if you just see the example of fluorides, okay, metal fluorides, if you take the example of fluorides, so you have lithium fluoride, sodium fluoride, then you have sodium fluoride, then potassium fluoride, rubidium fluoride or cesium fluoride. If you consider these alkali metal fluorides, okay, out of your bromide, chlorides or iodides, fluorides are said to be having high negative values. Especially lithium fluoride, that is the first compound, will have high negative value of enthalpy. But as you go down the group, the negative value keeps on decreasing. Very important to be remembered. As you all know that fluorine is first of all a highly electronegative element, and also lithium, to its exceptionally smaller size, okay, forms a stronger bond, and due to this formation there is large amount of energy which is released, which is considered as highly negative value. So lithium fluoride will have most negative value or highly negative value when you compare it to all of their fluorides. So cesium fluoride will have the least negative value. So it decreases down the group. That's the way I said. Now, the reverse is true for the bromides, fluorides and iodides. So if you consider lithium bromide, sodium bromide, potassium bromide, rubidium bromide, and you have cesium bromide. Okay, if you consider these bromides or chlorides or iodides, all of these, the reverse is true. Whatever you have applied, no, that the negative value decreases down the loop. The reverse is true for bromides, chlorides and iodides, which means that, as I said, this will have, the first compound will have a negative value. Here, the reverse is true, which means cesium bromide will have high negative value. Okay, but you see that it increases down the loop. Highly negative value increases. Here it decreases. Okay, so I hope you are getting it that lithium fluoride will have the highest negative value, but when you compare it to bromides or chlorides or iodides, here they will have high negative values down the group. Here it is at the top of the group. So this trend is to be noted that fluorides will have most negative values when you compare it to bromides, chlorides as well as iodides. Okay, and also if you just take the melting points of when you compare it to fluorides, chlorides, bromides and iodides, fluorides will have most high values of melting point. Okay, so they will have greater values of melting point. So melting point, if you consider for chlorides, will have more melting point. Then, this is fluoride, which is having more melting points, right? Then you have chlorides, then you have bromides, and then you have iodides. So fluoride, as it is most electronegative, they will have high values of melting points too. Okay, so these are some of the characteristics which is to be remembered under these halides. Now, all of these halides are generally soluble in water. Okay, they easily get dissolved in water. But if you see that lithium fluoride, again, because of its smaller size, okay, they are much less soluble when you compare it to other halides. And also cesium iodide is also less soluble. So talking about the solubility, all of these halides are soluble when you compare lithium fluoride and cesium iodide. They are less soluble. These are less soluble. Lithium fluoride, if you consider, these have high lattice enthalpy, which means that they release more energy in order to form an ionic compound, as I said. So because of this, the energy which is released is said to be more when you compare it to hydration. Okay, so as these have high lattice enthalpy, they are less soluble. And if you consider cesium iodide, this is due to high lattice enthalpy. Okay, and this is due to less hydration enthalpy. Less hydration enthalpy. Okay, so this can be due to their sizes, as these both have larger sizes. Okay, because of this they will have less hydration enthalpy. That means solubility will be less. So we say that lithium fluoride as well as cesium iodide are having less solubility when you compare it to all the other halides. So these halides, okay, can be soluble in other compounds like ethanol, pyridine. Okay, let's talk about the third type of compound, that is oxoacids. Now you must be hearing this word for the first time. Let me explain to you what are oxoacids. Now you have seen that you write the formula of carbonic acid as H2CO3. Okay. Now in order to understand what are these oxoacids, let me just simplify and write it. So I put OH towards this side, okay, which is twice, and then you have CNO. Right? Now oxoacids are the ones. See, by the name itself you can make out that which is connected to an oxygen atom. So acids contain H plus ion. So there is a proton, acidic proton, which is directly connected to an oxygen atom. So such compounds are called oxoacids. So carbonic acid is one of the example for oxoacid. Why? Because the acidic proton, you know that acids give out protons, which is H plus ions, which is directly connected to oxygen atom, which is bonded to oxygen atom. So such compounds are called oxo acids. Very simple. In the same way, sulfuric acid also is said to be an oxo acid. Okay, where the acidic proton is connected to the oxygen atom. Now, what are the characteristics of these? Why are we talking about oxo acids? Now, oxo acids, okay, when they react with alkali metals. So, when these react with alkali metals, okay, so they usually form salts. So, acids with metals form salt and they give out hydrogen gas, correct? So, mainly they give out salts. So, these salts, we are talking about the characteristics of these salts now. So, these salts are really soluble in water. First of all, whichever the salts are formed by the oxo acids are soluble in water. Okay, that is one of the points. So, if you take an example of H2CO3 with an alkali metal, okay, so what do they give out? They give out the salt, that is Na2CO3 plus H2. So, this is a salt. Now, these salts are really soluble in water, and one of the properties, that is they are thermally stable too. Thermally stable in the sense, in the presence of heat they do not decompose. That is what you mean by thermally stable. So, if you try heating them, they do not decompose. That is what it means. So, all of these salts are soluble in water. They are thermally stable. Okay, that's the second point. And also, they are metal carbonates as well as metal hydrogen carbonates. Metal hydrogen carbonates. Okay, of these oxo acids. That is, see, one of the example what you have is sodium carbonate. These are also highly stable. That is thermally stable. These are also highly thermally stable. Okay, thermally stable. So, they also do not decompose when it is heated. For example, you have sodium carbonate, potassium carbonate, sodium hydrogen carbonate. All these carbonates do not decompose on heating. That's why we say they are thermally stable. But there is an exception of lithium carbonate. Lithium carbonate. Okay, what happens is that lithium carbonate, okay, you know that lithium, the size of the lithium ion is really small, whereas carbonate anion has a larger or a greater size of its electronic clump. Now, lithium being very small and carbonate ion being very larger in size, what is the process which is happening, or what is the theory here? That is, the carbonate ion can polarize or distort the lithium ion can polarize the carbonate ion. That is what it says. Correct? So here, if you consider lithium carbonate, okay, so here lithium carbonate, in this carbonate is anion and lithium is a cation. So lithium will have a smaller size, whereas carbonate will have a larger size. So because of this, the cation, which is lithium, can distort the bigger size, that is anionic size of the carbonate ion, and hence they become more stable in nature. Okay, so they polarize themselves, they undergo polarization, there is distortion and they attain stability. So lithium carbonate becomes highly stable in nature, which on heating, okay, which on heating decomposes to give lithium oxide and carbon dioxide. Okay, so these give out highly stable compounds, that is the next stable compounds, that is lithium oxide as well as carbon dioxide. So this is one of the exceptions where lithium carbonate will be not stable when you when they undergo heating, whereas all of the metal carbonates, all of the other metal carbonates except for lithium, they will be thermally stable. But lithium carbonate is not stable. What do they form when on heating? They form lithium oxide and carbon dioxide. So this is the characteristics of the oxo acids and the compounds formed by them.